they were all expenses paid. Like, they were incredible. The pay was insane for an apprentice. And I basically smoked, sniffed and drank it up the wall in this shed, partying, thinking I can make a business out of selling, and I'm doing a little bit of whatever, but I'm only just scraping back what I'm spending. And then I almost died in that shed. And that was a bit of a wake-up call. So the first time I think that I really recognized that there's someone looking out for me. So at this time, even though I'm doing spirituality and all these things, I'm very arrogant. And I remember one night becoming compos mentis with my friend on the kind of different sofas we had down this shed. And we were just out of our heads talking craziness. And I remember I said something, but what he said stuck with me. He said, "Do you not think there are things we can't explain?" Which resonated with everything I was experiencing, from addiction to my experiencing things spiritually. But I couldn't actually admit it to myself. I had to wait till he said it. So I had said something really arrogant, clearly, and very empirically minded.
Like cynical as well, right?
Probably cynical. And he just challenged me. Do you not think there are things we can't explain? And I was just like, damn, that hit somewhere in me. That actually resonates. That's reality for me. But I can't face that. I need to know that we know everything.
Is it like a pride?
No, it was more fear. It was more, I thought we had it all sewn away and summed up as humans. And I thought we found out there was no point to anything. Because I can live with that. I can't live with if there's meaning.
Yeah, maybe Nietzsche was right. God's dead. Let's just pleasure it up and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if there's more to this, then... So I was one night after partying and pretty much partying by myself, just getting caked up, right? On weed, on coke, on booze, watching films, playing video games, watching porn, inviting women round, bad stuff. I fainted. And it was more or less done up, this shed, but it was still a work shed. It still had a metal vise on a workbench. And I remember waking up and I actually remember the fall. I remember the fall and I remember waking up. I think I remember the fall more than I remember waking up. And I realized when I was falling, I'm going to hit the vise. And then I remember waking up and realizing I hadn't hit the vise. I'm awake, I'm alive, okay. And that was big time to like sit upright and just stare at the floor for however long I need to stare at the floor and process the situation. Because it's almost like that split second in falling, you know, your life flashes before your eyes or something, but all the thoughts in my head, my dad's going to find me dead, basically was what was in my mind. My dad's going to find me dead. And it might be in a week, because I'm used to being down this shed for months on end, and no one coming and checking on me, because they'd given up doing that. And it was a big wake-up call. And anyway, when maybe a year and a half into this, someone from the family, the step family, came to check up on me.
Is this like 2019, maybe? Or, yeah. Just for context, just for listeners, I guess.
Let's say sure, because honestly, for me, I can't make full sense of it. I need to,
okay.
you know, still these things are. I just haven't really worked through them chronologically. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, you know, some of the things you see in the Bible, they're not necessarily always in a chronological order. It's more like the whole from that time. That's kind of how I see it. From that time of my life, everything post Christ, to me, I haven't really sat through and worked out chronologically.
It's quite an interesting, to me anyway, and quite a common phenomenon for, especially when people experience trauma, and obviously with you it's just wrapped up with all this kind of stuff, is your brain will, to save itself from the pain, make the memories ambiguous and messed up, and you just can't remember stuff from that time. I remember speaking with one of my best mates about a year ago on the podcast, Finn, and he very sadly lost his dad to suicide when he was 16. And he said to me on the podcast, 16, 17, 18, those years are almost a blur because your brain goes into autopilot.
Yeah, that's so true. Wow. Yeah, you're asleep at the wheel. You are sleepwalking through life because you can't face being conscious. So yeah, this happened, near-death experience, hand in hand with kind of a spiritual awakening of me going from, okay, there is more to life. I need to actually start thinking about this because I am clearly suppressing everything in me. And I lost the apprenticeship. And I went for another one. I got that one. That took me up to Birmingham. So I kind of naturally progressed, moved out of my dad's, had another apprenticeship where there was some time for me to go up to Wolverhampton University to do some studying, and that was as a structural engineer. And when I got up to Wolverhampton University, and I was on like the Dudley campus or something, I don't know, I was doing the same old whatever. I was fully funded in my crazy lifestyle.
Student finance.
Student finance.
Oh, the hedonism that can come from that if you don't have that structure.
It wasn't actually student finance. It was, here's some money from my boss as an apprentice. So I was being very well compensated while I was up in Wolverhampton, supposedly doing a university course in structural engineering, and in fact, I was up there rinsing the money I was receiving, making all kinds of contacts up in Birmingham, not for any long-term goal or purpose in trying to make money or whatever. It was purely, I'm fully living hedonistically now. I'm lost. I've tried to make a business out of selling drugs, and I've rinsed that up the walls using drugs. And now I'm in a similar position up in Wolverhampton, where I'm kind of trying to get on my feet by doing some petty selling and whatever, and that lasted for about a month, and I got a phone call from my boss, and they said you haven't been showing up for your lectures or for your courses or for any of you haven't handed any coursework or anything like that. And I don't think I was at the stage of coursework yet, but he was very upset at me on the phone. And he said, you're fired. And I'm there in somewhere I've never been before, in a very vulnerable place, really. And I'm like, I've messed up big time. I've done it again. I had the audacity as well to ask him for money to get me back. And I actually ended up reaching out to my dad. And
well, you couldn't afford like the train or anything to get back?
No. I was absolutely rinsed. I think he pretty much called me the night after a major party, so and not showing up and whatever. So he was done with that. He's not investing in that. Unplug.